Hello, watchers. Welcome to the Book of Memories, where today we are going to be getting into a series I've been wanting to get into this year. We touched on this subject in a podcast called The Evil Hour, hosted by my dear friend Dom and I. This video you could think of as a companion piece. Off screen is the boyfriend unit,
President.
who doesn't really know a lot about Silent Hill, so through the plot explanation, if he has any questions, I'll be explaining them as we go along. Now, if you like horror music and deep dives, don't forget to smash the subscribe button. It helps the algorithms out. In a cutscene of random images, we have a flash of Harry and his wife finding an abandoned child. Then we see Harry and his daughter, Cheryl, driving to the town of a vacation because he was trying to win the Dad of the Year award. Along the way, he sees a police officer driving by, and moments later, after passing by an abandoned motorbike, much like the one the police officer was driving before, he swerves to avoid a girl on the road, which causes him to crash and lose consciousness. And that was just the premises if one left the main menu up for a minute or two.
Okay.
That is literally the whole premise, intro of Silent Hill.
That's before you actually start playing the game.
Right.
Got it.
So, press start, game begins with Harry coming to and realizing his daughter is now missing, so now we have to go find her. Walking to a deserted town, he notes it's foggy and it has snow falling out of season. And this is in contrast to the ash we all have accepted over time. Even the movie gets this part wrong. In the distance, he sees a little girl who looks just like Cheryl, the daughter that he's looking for.
Got it. Okay.
Giving chase, there's a shift in the environment where everything becomes black, dark, oppressive, and industrial. After encounters with hostile creatures, Harry loses consciousness again, and in the next scene, he wakes up in a cafe. Here, he meets a police officer, the same police officer that I mentioned before that drove past him.
Mm-hmm.
Same police officer. So he meets her up with her, and here he meets Sybil Bennett, and Harry decides to find Cheryl, but not together, because of course this is 1999, PlayStation 1, so that's not going to happen. So this would be a little too convenient for the game. So Sybil goes off and goes one direction. Harry is going a whole different direction. But before all that, whilst figuring out how to get out of Silent Hill, Sybil hands Harry a gun, foreshadowing, "Don't go blasting me instead." Roaming around town now, Harry finds a clue indicating Cheryl is at a local school, so we head off that direction. Whilst investigating the school, we get the first in-game level. When we start to figure out the day, night, light, darkness thing is not just a motif, but a huge aspect of the gameplay.
Okay.
Cheryl is ultimately nowhere to be found, but there's a creature in the basement, and it's implied there was a student who was harassed for being labeled as a witch. A theme we'll get back to in the series. The creature is defeated, and the ghost of a young woman vanishes before Harry. Doesn't know who he is, or who this person is, and it kind of looks like Cheryl, but not Cheryl.
Okay.
So then he starts hearing church bells ringing, and Harry follows the tolls of the church bells to this old church. He meets up with an old crone named Alessa Gillespie, who's a cultist, and she gives Harry a thing called the Flowers. It's like a pyramid object. It's a MacGuffin, and with it, she claims that it can counter-react to darkness in town. So after this encounter, Harry wanders off to Alchemilla Hospital, our second in-game level, where we meet two more characters, Dr. Michael Kaufman and Nurse Lisa Garland. While investigating the hospital, Harry begins to question his own existence, wondering if he's really dead or he's really alive. And he asks Lisa, the nurse lady, to come with him, but she feels she must stay in the hospital.
Question. So is this a regular hospital, or is it a Silent Hill hospital?
So it's a Silent Hill hospital.
So it's all
it's all
spooky?
yeah, it's all spooky. Yeah. There's like two, like, every in-game level, there's going to be like a normal version and then like a not so normal version.
Kind of like an upside down version of,
Yeah.
or an inverted version. Okay.
Right.
Got it. Okay.
Then, eventually after this, there's too much of a bleed of like the darkness or like the industrial version, vice the normal version.
Okay.
That there's like really no in between. There's not, it like literally fades to being, you know.
After it blends in to
Yeah.
there? Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So there's some beat bopping through town to a hidden church in a, say it with me now,
Secret tunnel, secret tunnel.
Harry and Sybil compare notes, so like this is like the first time they meet up. But then things happen, and regardless, there comes a point where we can make a choice to save Dr. Kaufman from getting murked from a monster. And it turns out he's part of an underground drug ring. So Harry gets a bottle of this thing called it's like some kind of plant. We had to get all scientific and shit. So there's like this, it's like a red liquid. And this liquid can exorcise demons, allegedly. So some more beat bop into a boat. And so now we're like around Toluca Lake.
Which is like that big main lake that's in the game.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So once we get to the boat, Sybil, Dahlia, and Harry are comparing notes. And Dahlia mentions going to a lighthouse and the local amusement park. They all agree to split up, where Sybil is going to the amusement park and Harry's gonna go to the lighthouse. When they meet back up, Sybil isn't back. Now we have to go and save her. Come to find out, she's now been possessed by the same demon things. By the way, doesn't get brought up again because the orderlies in the hospital had them as well. So, like...
Monsters?
Yes.
Oh. Like pets?
Well... It's like this monster thing that's like on their back and like controls them.
Oh, okay.
And so like...
Resident Evil, where they have like that bug thingy, like
kind of like that,
okay.
Yeah. So like it has like the Resident Evil bug thingy, but this is like more of like a leech thing.
Gotcha. Okay.
But I don't know why Harry decides it's okay to not save the doctors or the nurses. There were both in the first game, doctors and nurses that were evil.
Mm-hmm.
After this, they're all just really sexy nurses. Like, yeah, it becomes a whole motif. But we decide, no, we need to, like, save Sybil,
Okay.
you know, with this red liquid stuff. So now we have a choice to either and or throw this liquid stuff and see what happens. And this changes the outcome of the game. Same with like saving Dr. Kaufman. That's a thing that like can save, or it changes the aspect of the overall game. Well, Harry heads on and finds that young lady from the school that I mentioned earlier, and using that MacGuffin,
Pyramid?
the flowers,
Oh, okay.
yeah, it weakens the girl. And then Dahlia shows her true colors, and we realize who the real bad guys are. So we were duped into capturing the girl, who turns out to be Dahlia's daughter, Alessa. So I want to point out, around this point here, Harry kind of stops asking, have you seen a little girl? Which is like the whole premise of like the game. Like every time he meets up with Sybil at the very beginning. Have you seen a little girl? He meets up with...
Random.
Right. He meets up with Dahlia. Have you seen a little girl? Meets up with Dr. Kaufman. Hey, have you seen a little girl? Lisa. Have you seen a little girl? At this point, he doesn't give a care. Like all fucks are like gone at this point. He doesn't ask anybody. Hey, question, have you seen this little girl? Because, you know, plot device. From this point on, it's less about finding his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe he's reading the writing on the wall, but It's Silent Hill, and a majority of the protagonists here are not the sharpest crayons in the box. From Sybil's perspective, she just sees a girl roaming around town in the distance, can never really capture her. And Dahlia is focused on Alessa, because both she and Cheryl look the same. They're just different.
Same but different.
Right.
Got it.
While Harry is like, look, I just need a kid for the tax write-off. Like, I don't care. Like, so in a dream favor, Harry and Lisa have a compare notes moment. And Lisa explains that she was the nurse for Alessa. Because, like, shocker.
What a twist.
It actually gets kind of emotional in the game. Like,
Really?
there's a moment where she's like, I know why I couldn't leave.
Oh, that's right, because he tried to get her to leave earlier.
Right.
And she didn't want to. That makes sense.
Right.
Okay.
So, Alessa's never-ending healing wounds terrified her. And she fell into a drug addiction. Fueled by none other than Dr. Kaufman.
Wait, who had the drug addiction?
Lisa, the nurse.
So she had 2 reasons for not leaving.
So put a pin in this, because it gets spicy in Silent Hill Origins.
Oh.
Yeah, there's a whole thing about that. I remember playing Silent Hill Origins, and I was like, this.
I'm guessing like a prequel to Silent Hill? Duh, makes sense.
Yeah. So finding Dahlia and Alessa in a spirit form and her charred body also there, Harry kind of wants to know where Cheryl is. Come to find out, 7 years ago, allegedly, because time is relative here, okay?
In Silent Hill?
Yeah.
Okay.
And why I say that is because not the whole series is a complete arc of time. So, like, 1 happens here. She's allegedly 7 years old.
Mm-hmm.
That means Silent Hill 2 happens sometime between before, after, sometime in the future.
Okay.
And then another sequel happens allegedly sometime later, where we'll get there. Anyway, time's relative. Just know that these games are not in sequential order from
Is it
1
like
to...
a Star Wars thing, where like it's older, but like the newer ones actually take place before the old ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a very Star Wars
Got it.
jump. Yeah. So Dahlia tried to force Alessa to give birth to the cult's deity. Alessa wasn't about that life and split her soul into 2. One half became Cheryl, whilst the other has been stuck in Silent Hill doing Silent Hill things.
How'd she split her soul?
Yes. Like, she had like a headache. I don't know what happened. Like, Alessa was like, I'm pregnant, and then like, but she's like a little girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's like, she's an elementary school like kid.
Oh.
Right.
Silent Hill, it's dark. Okay.
Like, these people are using kids to birth a god, and then like wonder why it's not working. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Go figure.
And not like on permission. Yeah. With Alessa's plan thwarted because her soul was rejoined with Cheryl, the deity is revived and possesses her. And depending on the gameplay, depends on which deity you get. Sometimes it's a Baphomet, sometimes it's Alessa. After defeating the deity, Dr. Kaufman shows up and murks Dahlia, because this wasn't the plan. He was like, as the game kind of goes, Dr. Kaufman kind of turns into like just a businessman.
Uh-huh.
He was just putting money into the fuel of the cult. But then like
the doctor?
Yeah, you know, drug ring
Yeah.
doctor
okay.
guy.
Yeah. And he kills Dahlia, which is she's the crone.
Yeah.
Wasn't she like in charge?
Cultist?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't like part of his like his people?
Yeah,
Wow.
because this wasn't a part of the plan. I don't know what a part of the plan was.
It sounds like they don't know what the plan is.
No, and like it gets really bad for us fans because there's like drugs, but then there's like spirituality.
So if drugs are involved, does that mean like all of this is just like a drug induced like thing that they're going through, like in Silent Hill, is that just drugs and it's not really there?
Yeah, because like, well, and maybe because like they're selling what's called White Claudia under the table, and so they're getting people hooked on that, and that's what Lisa is on. And then like it's brought up, White Claudia is brought up in Silent Hill 2, it's brought up in Silent Hill 3, it's brought up in, it's just this whole thing. But also the red liquid is used a lot too, because it's like a counteractor to the White Claudia.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. So like he's trying to just run this drug entrepreneurship. He was just like, yeah, I see dollar bills. And what he didn't understand is that like with the spirituality part of like using drugs in game, that it was going to cause all these things to happen. Yeah. So then Lisa, the nurse, shows up and drags Dr. Kaufman into like somewhere. It's never really implied, but it's kind of like she holds him back from like going and like surviving.
Okay.
So then Harry grabs a newborn baby from Alessa in her weakness, and then Sybil and Harry run into a light, and they all live happily ever after. Because the sequel isn't Silent Hill 2. Actually, we have multiple endings, which isn't anything new today, but back in 1999 when this game released, it was actually a fun way of getting replay out of product. So in total, there's 4 endings, from good plus to good to bad plus. So we're gonna go over them. And you can pick and choose what the synopsis of what you think is canon, but like at the end of the day, we have a Silent Hill 3, and Silent Hill 3 kind of canonizes which one of the endings is canon.
Is there like certain requirements you have to fulfill before you could get each particular ending?
Yeah. So as I spoke before, if you save Dr. Kaufman and Sybil Bennett, you get like the best outcome. If you get like Sybil, but you don't help Dr. Kaufman, you get like the good ending. If you help Dr. Kaufman but don't save Sybil, you get the bad ending. And if you don't save Dr. Kaufman and you don't save Sybil, you get like the worst ending possible.
Sybil's the one that goes off on her and gets possessed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So here is the premises of those endings. But one can argue that
Complicated.
One can argue that I covered like the good plus ending with like the best outcome, which is pretty much nailing every detail. However, saving or not saving, like, you know, Dr. Kaufman and Sybil, like that pretty much changes up the outcomes. The good ending only slightly changes a bit, where I said Sybil and Harry run into the light and they live happily ever after. For the bad endings, we get bad plus has Sybil killing Dahlia, not Dr. Kaufman. And in the worst case scenario, Harry kills the birth god and collapses in sorrow over the ultimate loss of his daughter, Cheryl. And Harry is then seen bleeding from his head, sitting in the car, which suggests everything that happened in Silent Hill was just a dream after he died from the car crash. And it's ironic because earlier Harry...
What, at the beginning of the game? Before it started? Oh, okay.
And it's ironic because Harry points out when he meets Lisa that he's wondering if everything that was happening was really real. And last but not least is a UFO ending, because aliens. So all in all, this is the hero's journey kind of tale, right? One of like alchemical transformation, including imagery and sometimes straight up occultism lifted right off the page. And by like the hero's journey, I mean like you start off with nothing, kind of like Link from Legend of Zelda.
You obtain something that helps you move further along your journey.
Exactly.
Okay.
And to say nods to literature of pop icons too, like The Lost World by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll, Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov, and words like, there's like words that are used too in Silent Hill, such as like the seal of Metatron, Metatron is the name of an angel that a character in the Bible turns into. And the word Florus is another occultism name as well.
Okay.
And there's also angelic names are used. So like in the very last end of the story, there's like rooms you have to obtain keys to, right, to get to the final battle. And each door has a name on it, and those names are Ophel, Haggith, Phaleg, and Befor. And each of those are angelic names.
Oh.
Yeah. And so finally, gracing us with the standard archetypes of the collective unconscious is like Harry being the everyman, the wise man being Sybil, because she's like, hey, take this gun, let me help you, because you don't have anything, you don't even have a stick yet. Then there's like the trickster, like Alessa Gillespie, where she's like, oh, like I'm just like this weird girl who's just like occultism and florist gyromancy. I saw this coming from a mile away. But then she like goes like, oh no, I gave you the flowers because I knew that she sympathized with you because of like trying to find your daughter, who's by the way not even here anymore. Like she's gone. Halfway through the damn game, Cheryl's not even alive anymore.
Oh shit.
Yeah, like anyway. Then there's the Shadow, and the Shadow is Dr. Kaufman. Because like everything that Dr. Kaufman does through the game is like the exact eternal opposite that Harry would have. And then of course there's the Anima and the Animus by way of every time that Harry interacted with Lisa, the nurse, it not necessarily was like a romantic situation, but it was just like enough that you could tell like she represented that feminine, that soft feminine archetype as a
kind of like a romantic tension between the two when they're on screen together.
I think she was on drugs. I think that she was, you know, just reaching out for a nice strong man to take care of her because she's seen some shit. Yeah.
Okay.
It's all there. Anyway. Overall, if you're nostalgic such as myself and you enjoy the 3D clunky gameplay, riddles are clever to solve. The piano riddle is like, it's a classic. Anytime I play a video game and it's like, here's a piano, press keys to like solve or whatever, I just go back to 1999. Yeah. It's iconic. And last but not least, the plot is just vague enough to not quite pin down. So after playing, it leaves one to want to replay, just to make sure you didn't miss a detail. Okay. That at least it wasn't skipped. And that is Silent Hill.
Okay. I can definitely see that you need to play this a couple of times. Somewhat convoluted, but I kind of get it. I think if you played a little bit more, or if I played it, I'd probably follow it a lot better. But for the most part, I think I can kind of see what's going on.
Yeah.
I'm more of a visual person, so if I see it like playing out in front of me, like, oh, okay, I know who that bitch is. Like, you know, like, oh no, she did this, you know, that sort of thing. So,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's like just enough that it like gives the information, and there's very light reading throughout the game.
On this one.
Yeah.
And this is all in the first game. Shit.
Yeah. Well, thank you all so much. I hope you all learned something from this synopsis. We will deep dive even further into the lore of Silent Hill. We're going to try and make this a thing where I go through every single video game and just synopsis and capture and answer questions from the boyfriend unit, as the common everyday man would ask, like, but I don't understand this part, I don't understand that part, because these are details that maybe I've already figured out.
Yeah, you know everything, or you know the whole thing with the back of your hand. It's me that's just kind of like, what? Yeah.
So don't forget to like, subscribe, ring the bell notification. I hope to see you all in the next episode of the Book of Memories. Until then, unpleasant dreams.